Good morning, Facebook family. It's Friday. Usually on Fridays, I'm busy with stuff uptown. But today I am home because I have a meeting for one of my kids. So apparently the rapture occurred. If you're here, you're all in hell or going to hell. I'm so sorry to inform you. As if you couldn't figure out that this was hell just from your evening news, just from watching the bullcrap happening in the world. You couldn't figure out we were all in hell. My grandmother used to say that this existence is actually purgatory. The existence that we're in is purgatory, and that when we pass, we either advance or devolve based on what we do here. So she said that this actual linear physical 3D existence is actually purgatory that we're all in. And I think actually her version makes sense. But anyway, okay, if you're still here, you're not one of God's people, apparently. And I was told that there was a preacher in South Africa who calculated the date and the time of rapture this time and convinced people to sell their homes and give away all their belongings because they were going to be swept up by the Lord. And so they no longer needed it. And I'm wondering if that pastor or preacher who did that ended up being raptured. And if he was raptured, did he take all the money and the houses and the assets with him, or did they stay here? And if they stayed here, if everyone was raptured, what's going to happen to that stuff? Do they have like heirs or something who are entitled to it, or were their heirs and their relatives also swept up in the rapture? Because there might be some free abandoned houses and properties and bank accounts that we should be checking. Those of us who have less should be checking into right now. Anyway, I know it sounds weird to certain people that I would mock that, because the thing is that I believe in Yeshua HaMashiach, otherwise inerrantly called Jesus Christ. People, when you tell them that, they automatically think alt-right, and they automatically think that my belief is the same as the mainstream fundamentalists. It is not. I believe that those people are not operating in line with the actual teaching. I don't believe in a lot of what they put out there. Okay. The rapture is a theory that actually was not part of the original teaching of Yeshua. It's not part of the original teaching. It came later. There was a vision, apparently, that John, the beloved apostle, the apostle who Jesus loved, had, and he wrote about his vision, and that became what is called the book of Apocalypse, or the book of Revelations. And so people who believe in apocalyptic Christianity, he never called himself a Christian, he was a Jew, and he never said he was starting a new religion. They're very into the whole rapture belief. That rapture belief came, I believe, in the 1800s. It was not part of the teaching. It's something that is, if I'm not mistaken, either UK or American made. They took verses and lines from those apocalyptic books, those visions that John said he had, that he allegedly wrote down. I say allegedly because a lot was changed. Okay. That had absolutely nothing to do with the teachings of Yeshua. And in fact, were deliberately meant to go against his teachings, because when people were following his teachings during the times of the Roman Empire, it was causing problems. It was kind of overthrowing the empire and causing problems. And they got together at the Council of Nicaea under Emperor Constantine to mix the pagan beliefs of the time and the political beliefs of the time with the Christian faith in order to stop what was viewed as sedition and problems and fighting. Okay? And they made Nero the emperor, the head of the church, which would have been anathema to Yeshua. Okay? So we were warned by Yeshua, errantly called Jesus, that there would be false prophets and false leaders and false teachers that didn't have anything to do with him. And I believe that all of these people from the Council of Nicaea forward are those false prophets and false teachers. That is my belief. They call me a heretic. I believe it is the opposite. The word heretic comes from the word heresis, which means to question. So questioning the authority of the church, questioning church leaders as to whether what they're preaching is correct, that is what heresy is. And they made questioning them like the ultimate evil that could send you to hell. Sounds pretty fascist, right? Yet we have many examples in the Bible of Yeshua himself questioning and calling out and challenging church leaders who are not working in tandem with the spirit of the law. The spirit of the law being love, the spirit of the law being redemption, the spirit of the law being restoration. And he made it clear that his ministry had to do with Jubilee. It had to do with restoring people, clearing the karmic slate for people, helping people who are downtrodden. He made it very clear that he was about helping the poor. He was about helping the oppressed. He was about helping people who are spit on. He was about helping the very least and most marginalized people, because he felt that those are the people who needed to have their condition improved and to have their faith and their hope restored, and to have an understanding that the Lord loves us all, and that he's not a respecter of persons or principalities or governments. He's not a respecter of borders. He's not a respecter of any kind of politician. If you consider your color supreme, you are putting your melanin or lack thereof as an idol before the Most High, who made us all and painted us all the color that he decided we would be. Okay? So, none of this has anything to do with him. That's my belief. All this crap that you see a lot of these mainstream people or these outright people foaming at the mouth teaching has nothing to do with him. It is a total opposite of what he stood for. That's my belief. And he didn't tell us that we were supposed to aspire to some paradise in the sky. Okay? He believed that such a place or such a state of being existed. But he didn't say that we were supposed to aspire to a kingdom in the sky. Okay? He said, okay, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, which, if you're a pagan, as above, so below, on earth as it is in heaven. He wanted us to manifest a kingdom here, which is where the Jehovah's Witnesses do have it right. He wanted us to operate in the here and now on this earth. He wanted us to treat people and treat ourselves in a way that allowed us to be closer to the Most High. He wanted us to treat one another and live our lives so that we were closer to the Most High. Here and now, in this space, on this planet, concrete, solid, able to be seen. He didn't want us to do good deeds that we could stock up as some kind of weird spiritual money, or to buy a ticket into a dubious, imaginary, unseen place called heaven. His heaven was real. It wasn't unseen. Okay? He didn't teach any of the crap that these people are teaching. The rapture theory came in the 1800s. through marginalized branch of this Christianity. And I don't believe that this Christianity has anything to do with the prophet and social reformer who is more properly called Yeshua HaMashiach, because he was Jewish. He spoke Aramaic. He lived in the Middle East. He was not European. He was not blonde-headed and blue-eyed and European. And he didn't teach us to hate anybody. He didn't teach us to act like we were better than anybody. He said we were supposed to be servant leaders. We were supposed to serve others. We were supposed to get on the same level as that person who is suffering so that we could have compassion and understand their suffering the same as if it were our own, and then operate from a place of compassion towards that other person. He took on the yoke of the oppressed. He said that that was his mission. He quoted in the temple the passage from Leviticus, the passage from Isaiah that talks about taking on the yoke of the oppressed in order to better understand them and free them of that weight of oppression and help them. He was about helping the poor and healing people. At no time did he teach people that we were going to be swept away. He wanted us to live our belief, not talk about it in the church. He took his ministry to the street where the lepers were, where the hungry were, where the prostitutes were, where the most outcast, marginalized people were. He took the love of God to the street. He lived among them as if he lived among them. He was mocked and ridiculed and persecuted for that. He lived among them, among the most reviled and spit upon people in his society. And he told them that the Lord loves them the same. The same. That it wasn't about hierarchies or governments. He loves you the same. He doesn't care what your station is. Those are human-made paradigms. Those are human-made stations. He doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about that. And he never preached that there was going to be a day when God was going to swoop down and snatch up all the Christians and remove them from this earth. He wanted us to walk on this earth, on this solid earth, okay, and be part of this existence and be part of this world and transform it through the power of understanding that we are the children of a divine intelligence that is good and that is based in love and compassion, and to go out and treat people that way in our everyday dealings to the best of our ability. That is, he wanted us to do it in the here and now, in the concrete. He didn't want us to separate ourselves from the people in need or most in need of help. Okay? Again, the rapture is something that belief came up in the 1800s. It was not something that he taught. He said that he was going to prepare a place for us with his Father in heaven. He was speaking metaphorically. It has to do with understanding that this material world, there's more to it than this. And we operate in the third dimension, right? But there are other dimensions. And time is something that is a construct. Linear time. The Lord doesn't operate in linear time. He doesn't have days, he doesn't have months, and he doesn't have years. He lives in a space where time is still, where the past, the present, and the future are all in one space, which is very hard for us to understand because we're physical beings in a 3D existence. We're put in a 3D existence to learn lessons. That's why I do believe that what my mother and my grandmother said, this is purgatory. This is our school. This is our learning ground. Okay? This is purgatory. Okay? But no one is going to come down and gather us up like some kind of alien abduction and snatch us up to heaven because we earn some kind of special points being good to people. Being good to people is supposed to be our natural state and is our natural state until coming into this world, being exposed to the corruptions of this world that are brought to us by our adversary, who is the father of lies, okay, and who has dominion over these principalities that God doesn't even recognize, okay? When we come in contact with that perfect state of grace where we just love people and we don't know how to do anything else, that's changed. When a baby is born into this world, they're innocent. They're not evil and they're not holy. They're innocent. They're completely neutral. And they operate from compassion and love because that is our nature. We're in the nature of our Father, who we come from. Our soul is made in His image. Okay? So what happens is that we become alienated from Him. We become separated from Him. And we become focused on these illusions. And they become more important to us than our spiritual connection with Him. And we have to find our way back. And as we do that, we mature spiritually. Life is a lesson. Okay? You're not rewarded by being suddenly snatched up and floated up to the sky mysteriously. That isn't how it works. Okay? I don't believe it. So, I want to offer up a prayer of healing, and I want to offer up a prayer of comfort, because there are people who were raised up in some of these belief systems, and these belief systems do not have anything at all to do with what Yeshua HaMashiach, because again, he was Aramaic, he spoke Aramaic. At no time did his mother open her mouth and call him Jesus. He didn't speak Roman, okay? He was a Jew who was born in Bethlehem, which, by the way, go look at a map and look at where Bethlehem is. I'll just leave it at that. But he didn't teach this. He wanted us to walk our walk and not worry about the day and the time that the world would supposedly end. He said that no one would know the date and the time. And God is so merciful. He gives us so many second chances. He'll decide to destroy the whole earth. But yet, if he finds one righteous person standing for him, he will not destroy it for that one person's sake. So you don't know the date and the time, and any preacher going out there saying that he does is engaging in a fraud, because it specifically said that we don't know, and we will not be able to know. And it doesn't matter, because we're supposed to live our life a day at a time, walking the walk. And what is the walk? I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was naked and you clothed me. I was harborless and a stranger, and you welcomed me in. I was a prisoner and you ransomed me. The actual word is ransom. Where under Jubilee, you actually took the place of a person who was a slave. You took the place of a person who was in prison so they could be back with their family. You restored them to their space. You can look it up. It's in the book of Leviticus under Jubilee. I think it's Leviticus 43. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken. Okay. I was sick and you tended to me. It was not visit, you tended to me. Okay? And the church later added, I was dead and you buried me. Jesus didn't say that. They added that. It's nowhere in the scripture. Okay? Whenever you did this for the least of these, for the least, for the leper, for the convict, whenever you did this for the mentally ill, whenever you did this for the guy on the subway stinking and scratching himself, whenever you did this for the least, you did it for me. He told us we had to be a servant to the others. He believed in servant leadership. He didn't believe in hierarchy. So there wasn't a hierarchy of believers who were so holier than everybody else that they would be swept up immediately to heaven in some kind of ascension. He didn't teach that. That was added later at the Council of Nicaea by the Roman Empire. The Lord is not a respecter of empires. He isn't. When the people, in the book of Samuel and the book of Kings, when the people decided to stop listening to prophets and instead wanted a king, he said that the people had betrayed him. The Lord said that the people had betrayed him. He comforted Samuel, the prophet, that he chose to lead them and guide them by telling him, don't feel that the people have betrayed you, the prophet. The people have betrayed me. He saw picking a king and a government as a betrayal. That's why they call me an anarchist Christian. If I'm an anarchist Christian, so is everybody in the damn Bible. Okay? So basically, except the Pharisee who Jesus cursed out. If you're calling someone brood of vipers in Aramaic, you're cursing them out. Just so you know. So anyway, here's what I will say. And when he talked about brood of vipers, he was referring to some of the idolatrous beliefs that they had in Babylon and in Samaria, okay, where they worshipped reptilian, kind of like a snake or a dragon-like god. Can look it all up. I've been looking it up since I was a child. It sounds crazy to people, but I've been looking it up since I was a child. These mainstream beliefs have zero to do with the actual teaching of Yeshua, errantly called Jesus. He never taught about a rapture. He wanted us to focus on the here and now. He wanted us to help one another right here and right now, and do it from a certain motive. Don't do it because you're cashing in your good deeds. Okay? Do it because you have genuinely reached in your heart and soul a state of compassion where the suffering of the person in front of you, even if they're very different from you, is the same as your own suffering, to the point where you would want justice for that person the same as if it was you and your own family suffering the way that that person is suffering. See the divine in that person. Recognize that you both come from the same divine source and work with that person to better their condition right here, right now, on this earth, on this planet, in this concrete 3D existence, on earth as it is in heaven. The reward is not to be swept up. The reward is to be able to be in this existence and still be connected to the Most High and not be alienated from Him. That's the goal. To be standing here with all the confusion and evil in this earth and still be solid in your connection to the Most High, who's the king of this and creator of this cosmos. And we are not even a speck in. We're giving all of this importance to all of this evil stuff that doesn't have anything to do with him, as if we're so bold and mighty. But if you look at the size of this universe, we are a tiny little speck of dust compared to it. And he runs it all. His intelligence, which is beneficent. So there are people that grew up in these belief systems their whole life, and they truly in their heart believe in a rapture. They believed it. They believed they did everything right. They did everything Pastor said. They believed, and they were good people, and they believed this. And they woke up this morning and they weren't swept up to heaven. And there's a lot of people laughing, and I don't think that's something to laugh at. Imagine the psychological and emotional trauma of that. Imagine the confusion and the hurt and the anger. Imagine the guilt. Maybe they believe that they were not snatched up because they have sinned. They have done something wrong, and they're beating themselves up emotionally and psychologically over it. Maybe they believed in this rapture and they gave away their money. They cut off ties with family who love them. They cut off financial stuff. They quit their jobs, and now they woke up and there was no rapture. This is not something to laugh about. Pray for those people and help them. Pray for them and help them. Okay? I was asked, and it was by the Catholic Church, which I am not a part of. I was asked when I was 12 or 13, do you reject the adversary, Satan, and all his lies and empty promises? And I searched my heart and I said, I do. I absolutely do. And I've been searching for my truth. And it will be a lifelong search. Because that's the nature of it. Your life is a lesson. It's a learning. We're here to learn. Okay? To learn things that are deeper than the concrete things that we see. And so, I rejected those lies and empty promises. And these poor people have been horribly deceived. Their minds have been warped. Their emotions have been warped. They've been convinced to give up their property, to give up their livelihood because they believed this preacher that they were going to be swept up. Many will come saying, Lord, Lord. Okay? He told you that you will know who's the real deal by their fruits, by the results that come, and by their actions, not by the promises and the preachments they make. He did not go and preach in a temple. Again, he sat with the oppressed. How great is the love of our Creator that he would take a piece of himself, a small piece of himself, because this world, this tiny little speck in the universe could not possibly contain the giant intelligence and presence that oversees the vast universe. How great is his love that he would take a piece of himself, make it into our form, so that it could feel our feelings, so that it could feel our physical sickness and our pain, as well as our joy, and walk among us, among the very worst so-called worst of us, again, among the lepers, among the mentally ill, among the prisoners, among the murderers, among the so-called demon-possessed, mentally ill, and go through human suffering just so that he could know what we go through on a daily basis, every struggle, every pain, and also every joy, so that he could better understand us and have compassion for us and be able to understand why we don't follow what he tells us to follow, so that he could have a better understanding and forgive us. Forgive us and restore us. Help us to restore our relationship with him as we walk here and now in this existence, to take a piece of himself, to know what it is to suffer, to know what it is to grieve, to know what it is to be wrongfully incarcerated, to know what it is to be put to death for something you didn't do, to know what it is to be hungry, to be afraid, to lose faith. My God, why have you forsaken me? To know what that feels like, so that he can have a better understanding of why we don't listen to certain universal laws, and to be able to simply forgive us. How great is that love? A teacher, a master who has that great of a love would not lie to you and tell you that he knows the date and the hour, and that you have to put aside doing the work of helping others that he commanded you to do, right? And worry about money and worry about your house and your job to the point where you would give it up because someone told you that they found some kind of weird formula that told them the date and the hour that he was coming for you, when he never even preached that there was a rapture. So instead of mocking those people, please pray for them. You know, we're born into this system that was already here. Nobody asked us, really, if we agreed with it. We didn't have an understanding of it, or that we were even in the system when we were born. We didn't ask to be any particular color. We didn't ask to be any particular language. We didn't ask to be on any particular spot in the planet. We're brought in here innocent. Some people who believe in reincarnation say that we choose, but I don't know if I believe that. We're brought in here innocent in the system that we didn't consent to. And then they say, oh, well, you consented later. Yeah, as if we had a choice. We didn't ask to be born into the religion that we're born in. We didn't ask for the parents. If our parents didn't do right, or our parents grew up in that system and they're trying the best they can and they don't know, and they're just teaching us the way that they were taught, because it helps them get by and function in this system. And their job is to have you be functional here. And sometimes being spiritual comes off as dysfunctional because it causes you to question and to challenge some of the things that are in front of you. And many times people don't understand. How could you challenge this? This has been working for us. Right? That's why prophets are put to death, because they say, hey, this isn't right, and people can't handle that. And then it threatens the interests of greedy people who are making money off of the way things are. And you're messing up their profit margin. They're going to have you taken out. Okay? So, These people, many of them didn't choose. They grew up in this belief of this rapture. Don't mock them. Have compassion for them. You can have compassion for somebody that you disagree with how they're rolling. It's not funny that there were a bunch of people who believed this and woke up today and realized they weren't taken up. The trauma and the confusion and the hurt of that is very deep. And maybe it's something that they need to go through so they can examine their logic or what they were listening to. You know, but there's a bunch of people who've been badly defrauded of everything. And who are beating themselves up because they believe there's a rapture and they think they did something wrong. They think they're out of God's favor. It's very hurtful. It's very hurtful. Psychological abuse is very hurtful. I had a person once, I have really bad eyesight. Probably going to go blind. I know I say that like I'm blasé about it, and I kind of am blasé about it. I've accepted it. Now, maybe they have certain LASIK surgery or technology that they didn't have when I was growing up. Maybe they have that now and it can help me. Damned if I can afford it to go get it. But the bottom line is, I went to a place and this pastor was going around saying he was a healer. And that if you were following Jesus, Yeshua, the proper way, he would lay hands on you and heal you. And I was a little kid and I went there believing this. I asked him to pray over me because I wanted him to heal my eyesight. And I prayed on it and I went and I did all this stuff. And he laid his hands on me and he spoke in tongues and everybody yelled hallelujah. And my eyes were not healed. And the impact of that was so hurtful. I thought I had sinned. I was a kid, a child. I've committed a sin. I've done something because God hasn't healed me. It's a very hurtful thing. I know what it feels like to go through that. Okay? And what I realized is that the Lord gave me a different type of sight. He gave me a different type of sight. And that sight alienates me a lot of times from other people because I see and perceive and understand things that other people don't. I see some of the stuff that's going to hit the fan before it hits. And I start preparing like Noah built the ark and everyone looked at him like he was funny. And then all of a sudden the rain came and they said, oh, wow, that guy knew what he realized something was coming. And then it's too late and they drown and Noah survives. That's how it is a lot of times, right? One of my favorite stories growing up was Chicken Little. The sky is falling. Oh, they're an alarmist. And then it clunk. Something happened. It was too late. They realized maybe Chicken Little perceived something or saw something or understood something or noted something that they were not noticing. And they were too busy ridiculing that person. That's the story of my life. I tell people they should have named me Cassandra. Cassandra is a oracle or a psychic in Greek mythology. The sun god Apollo, who is very much a narcissist and full of himself in Greek mythology, decided he wanted to marry Cassandra, who was this beautiful psychic, right? And she wasn't entirely honest. She agreed to it even though she didn't really like him in order to get all the, the money and the power and the zap that you get from marrying a god, Apollo, right? Sun, Helios, right? So, she ended up spurning him, and he was so jealous and hurt and angry that he put a curse on her that she would give prophecies and her prophecies would be 100% true and accurate, but no one would believe her. She prophesied the Trojan War, and she prophesied the fall of Troy. And she saw all the bodies killed, all the people killed and hurt in this horrible war. And she warned her people. And they all mocked her, marginalized her, spat on her, and saw her as, as crazy. And they didn't listen. And sure enough, Troy fell. And there wasn't a damn thing she could do about it. And the helplessness and desperation that she feels or felt from that situation must have been horrific. But that's what narcissists do when you spurn them. She shouldn't have played games with that type of fire. I will say that much. That's a mythological story. I know I'm talking like it's real, but that's the story. So I've told people that my name should have been Cassandra because I see shit about to hit the fan and I warn people, she's crazy. She's crazy. But then in the same breath, they'll say, she's super freaking intelligent. She's read all these damn books. She should have a master's or a PhD in something. She's so damn smart. My uncle used to say I was a walking encyclopedia. But it never dawns on people that maybe the smart kid knows what they're talking about. Because it goes so against the grain of what they're used to hearing and it sounds so bizarre and weird to them that they don't listen. And sure enough, the very shit I said hits the fan. It's like, whoa. And sometimes people realize that Diane called it before it happened. And other times, they're just so wrapped up in having to get by day, they forget that they said this was going to happen. And also, nobody really likes somebody who says, I told you so. Especially because you told them so. Makes them feel bad. But stop mocking those people and start praying for them and looking for a way to help them. And how incredibly full of yourself must you be to take time away from ministering to the poor and oppressed, which is what the disciples of Yeshua were told to do. And they were told to do it and not even really talk about it. They were told to just walk their walk. Use whatever resource you have to help those who are suffering and struggling more than you are. Okay? And be a servant leader to them. And that would be a full-time situation. Between that and working on your own relationship with the Most High. Because just because you're a pastor don't mean you're perfect. Working with your own relationship to the Most High and doing that takes up so much time. How do you have time sitting there with a calculator to figure out what day the rapture is going to be? You want to be the famous preacher who came up with the right formula. That's idolatry. That's your ego that you're bowing to instead of the Lord. He told you to not worry about the day or the time, but to get up every day and live your life according to his example. Because you don't need to worry about it. All his parables, the parable of the virgins, the ones who are asleep and the ones who are working and keeping watch. He tells you, you're supposed to be vigilant. You're supposed to be seeing not when the rapture's coming, but when trouble's coming, so that you can help those people who are going to be the targets of a famine or the targets of a pestilence or the targets of some kind of nonsense. You're supposed to be working to assist them. That is why they call it a minister. People minister. Minister has to do with service. You're supposed to serve other people. You're supposed to help people. You're not supposed to do it necessarily to the detriment of yourself to the point where you're like, but you're supposed to help other people. That is such an important full-time job. You should not have time to sit there with a calculator trying to figure out when the Lord is coming so you can hurry up and, sell your house. When you're in spiritual bliss, it doesn't matter. Material things don't matter anymore. Anyway, pray for those people. Stop making fun of them, please. Some of them are children who, like me, believed and are wondering why God doesn't love them or what they did wrong. You know? Go and help them and pray for them. And help them if they lost everything to this person. Help them. They don't need you to say we told you so. Like, they're feeling it. So help them. Pray for healing over them. You know, there's people who may have lost everything who might try to take themselves out. You understand what I'm saying? It's not a joke. It's not funny. Help them. These are people looking for hope, and they didn't see it in this world. Help them. That's what Jesus would want you to do. To even help people, and especially to help people who have been guided the wrong way. That's all. Have a blessed day. And that was for believers. If you're not a believer, it don't apply to you. If you don't believe there's a God, if you're not a Yeshuan, if you're not a believer, an anarchist Christian like me, if you're not, then it doesn't apply to you. I'm talking to believers. And no one's required to believe as I do to be my friend. I don't care. I'm talking to other believers. Take care.